Hello, my little friends. I am so excited to share with you today 5 of my all-time favorite books. The first book that I'm going to be sharing with you is this book. It is called The Day the Crayons Quit. It's written by Drew DeWalt and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. His name's upside down, that's kind of silly. But this book is all about a crayon box where the crayons decide that they are unhappy. So they write their owner a letter. And each crayon writes a letter talking about why they're unhappy, whether they're being used too much or not being used enough. For example, red crayon, let me show you the picture. Red crayon is complaining that it is used way too much. It's used for the apples and the hearts and Santa Claus and the fire trucks, and it just needs a break. It's tired. Where pink crayon feels like it's never getting used. Here we see pink crayon is upset because Duncan, the owner, never uses it, and that makes pink crayon sad. So all of these crayons write letters to Duncan, and Duncan reads them, and he decides something very special, something that he's going to do with the crayons to make sure that they all feel special and needed and important, and that they're all happy. And you'll have to read to find out what Duncan does to make sure that all of the crayons in his crayon box are happy. But I definitely recommend reading this book. It's so fun, it's so relatable. I mean, how many of you have crayons at home? Are there some crayons that you use more than others? I bet there are. And this book shows that these crayons have feelings and all of them want to be used. So it's a very fun read. I highly recommend it. The next book that I'm going to introduce to you is this book. This is one of my all-time favorites. It's called Click Clack Moo, Cows That Type. It is written by Doreen Cronin and illustrated by Betsy Lewin. And this book is hilarious. If you're looking for a funny book, this book is for you. This book centers around these cows at Farmer Brown's farm. And these cows get hold of a typewriter. Do you know what a typewriter is? A typewriter is a machine used in the olden days where people would type and press the buttons on the typewriter to send letters to people, and it prints out kind of like a computer these days. So these cows get a hold of a typewriter and they start sending messages and requests to Farmer Brown, and they decide that they are not happy, that they want some things, and they aren't going to give Farmer Brown milk until he gives them those things. Well, then, not only do the cows want things, but the other animals in the barn realize, well, we want things too. And so they start writing letters to Farmer Brown. And it is such a funny story to see how Farmer Brown reacts and what he does, whether he gives the cows and the other animals what they want or whether he doesn't. So you'll have to read this book because it is hilarious and so fun to read. And these cows are just the silliest cows because they're writing their farmer letters. So you'll have to read to find out what happens next. The next book that I want to share with you is this nonfiction picture book. It's called I Am Rosa Parks. It is by Brad Meltzer and illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. And this book is a treasure of mine. Rosa Parks is one of my all-time heroes. She was a real person. She lived back in the 1960s, 1940s, 50s, and 60s, where Black people weren't treated equally as white people. And it talks about her story of standing up for herself and for what she believed in and making sure that others knew that she was important and that her skin color didn't matter, that she was still a wonderful human being and that it did not matter what the color of her skin was. And it's such a fun read because it takes this important moment in history and kind of turns it into a comic book. I'll show you. You can see here, we have Rosa and her little brother and they're goofing around about her height, but we have these nice word bubbles that make it a lot more fun to read. We have like this comic form of illustration that puts an important story into kid-friendly terms. And this book is all about change. It's about equality. It's about standing up for what you believe in. It's not being bullied. It's about bravery and courage and heroes. And even though you're young and you may feel like, heroes are older people, you can be a hero too, and you can stand up for what you believe in. And Rosa Parks can be a wonderful example to you. I definitely recommend this book to you, and I hope you'll read it and really understand her story, and I hope she becomes one of your heroes too. The next book that I want to share with you is called Number the Stars. This is the book. I know, I'm sorry, there's no cover on this one that I checked out from the library, but this is such a touching story, a true story about World War II. And this book centers on two friends. Do you have a friend that you're really close with? I'm sure you do. Well, this is about two best friends. One girl is named Anne-Marie and the other one's name is Ellen, and they are growing up in Denmark. Denmark is all the way across the world in Europe. And this book begins in the year 1943 during World War II, where Germany is taking over and is punishing all those people who are Jews. And Ellen, Anne-Marie's best friend, is a Jew. And they're living in Denmark, so they aren't in Germany, but they're walking down the street one day and get stopped by Nazi soldiers. And this scares them and their families, and they realize that Denmark isn't going to be a safe place for Ellen and her family to live anymore. So Ellen's family, her parents, flee Denmark, and they go to Sweden. But Ellen stays with Anne-Marie's family and pretends to be part of their family. And this story takes you on the journey of these two best friends who are doing everything they can to keep Ellen's identity a secret and to keep her safe and her family safe. And it is such a touching story about friendship and about equality. Back in World War II, the Jews were punished for who they were and what they believed in, and that wasn't fair. And this chapter book dives into that, and it's a true story, and I hope you'll read it because it is such a touching story about friendship and courage. The last book that I want to share with you is this novel called Wonder by R.J. Palacio. It is such a wonderful book. It is all about this little boy named Augie. And Augie does not look like everybody else. He has a facial disformation where his face it's not like everybody else's. It doesn't look the same. And he's very self-conscious about that. He's worried that people aren't going to like him because of how he looks. And he is bullied a little bit because of the way he looks. And it takes you on his journey of overcoming what people think about him, and it's about self-acceptance and true friendship, that a friend isn't going to judge you or like you based off of what you look like or what you wear or how much money your parents have. It's all about who you are on the inside, and that's what truly matters. And this book helps you realize that, helps you realize what a true friend is. And Augie goes on that adventure of finding a true friend, and eventually he does. But he does go through lots of ups and downs, and you'll have to read this book to find out what happens to Augie and what adventures he goes on with this friend, and it'll help you realize what a true friend is. So I hope you'll take the time, read this book about Augie, and really think to yourself about how you look at others and how you treat other people, because everyone deserves to be treated equally no matter what they look like. No matter their disability or their race or their religion, we are all equal and we are all important, and you are important, and I hope you know that. And I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to share with you 5 of my favorite books, and I hope you'll take the time to read them because they are powerful, life-changing books. I know the first 2 were kind of silly, but the last 3 really do have a meaningful message that what you look like doesn't matter. It's all about who you are on the inside. So thanks for joining today, friends, and I'll see you next time.